Hi everyone, this is Erica from Gokche Capital. This is our 5th episode in our Gokche Investor Series, and we're continuing the mini-series on our end-to-end acquisition process. So today I'm going to talk about confirming access. But first, just a quick recap. In the last episode, I went over how we confirm a parcel size, talked about our 4 data points, the deed, assessor data, county GIS, and third-party data provider. And today I'm going to talk about what we check for when it comes to property access. So we check for both physical and legal access on all of our properties. And when we look, so first we check for physical access, and this would include one, is there actually a road on Google Maps, but also is there year-round access, and do we know of any gates that may block access? Then we take a deeper dive into legal access, check whether the parcel is part of a legal subdivision, if the road is in fact a public road, and if not, whether there's an access easement. So a few notes on physical access. This is the first thing we check, and we usually take a quick look in Google Maps at the very start before we even send out an offer. And this is very basic search just to see if there is in fact a road fronting the property. Once we get a signed purchase agreement back, then we do a deeper dive in legal access. Because we found that the only real way to confirm physical access is actually to go out and visit. And we usually have our photographer do this when they go out to take pictures of the property. So at the time that they go out, they will flag for us any access concerns that they come across. Another note on physical access is gates are often a major issue, and typically we would not purchase a property if we know that there's a gate blocking access to it. But if the property is in a gated HOA, that of course would not be an issue. We just want to make sure that we get the access code to the gate. So a quick story on confirming parcel access. We bought a property in Arizona, and it did appear to have physical access. But when our buyer went out to visit, they mentioned that a wash had cleared the road out. So the moral of the story is that just because the property appears to have physical access, of course in this case also had legal access, it doesn't mean that that road will be accessible year-round, especially when you're talking about very rural parcels. So when you're looking at a parcel that's very far out of the way, you're going to assume that we assume that you will need 4x4 or all-wheel drive, and that at certain times of the year you may not be able to visit the property. Okay, so a few notes on legal access. And once we get a signed purchase agreement back, then we really take a deeper dive into legal access. And we ask 3 main questions. So first, and this is especially true in certain counties that we've worked in, but we verify that the property is in fact a part of a legal subdivision or was legally subdivided. Then we confirm that the road that we saw in Google Maps is a public road. If it isn't, we then try to check and see if we can find any access easements that were recorded. So a quick story here on legal access and why we now check, especially in certain counties, for or verify that the property was part of a legal subdivision. So we bought a property in California. It looked like it had physical access, and it also looked like there were mobile homes or maybe RVs around the area. But then we called the county, and they mentioned that the property was not part of a legal subdivision. So in their eyes, it did not have legal access. And in this particular county, the way that their zoning ordinance and building codes were written, you were not allowed to build on the property, or they would not approve a building permit on parcels that did not have legal access. So the moral of that story was always check for legal access, and that is why, again, especially in certain areas, we first make sure that the parcel is legally subdivided. We then confirm that the road is a county road. If the road is not, there are still two scenarios that would convey legal access. The first would be if we can find an access easement, and sometimes we're lucky and that easement is referenced in the vesting deed. But more often than not, finding that access easement would require either a title search or more extensive research on our end to find where that easement was recorded. Now, the second scenario in which we find legal access even if the property is not off of a public road is in the instance where the property is in a functioning HOA, and the HOA is maintaining the private roads, all private roads within its jurisdiction, and the deed specifically mentions a property owner's right to use all roads within the subdivision. So a few other quick stories about legal access here and how it can get a little wonky. So we bought a property with physical access. The road was private, but we gave the county a call. And when we spoke to them, they had mentioned that the road itself is private, but in this particular area, there was a lot of BLM land, and there had just been a law passed that basically prevented anyone from blocking roads that led to public land. So because our property was right off of BLM land, we were, under this new law, the property was essentially granted, or you were barred from blocking that private road because that private road also led to the BLM land right next to our lot. However, when a buyer went out to visit, they did see a gate blocking the road. But they were able to go and talk to the owner and obtain a copy of the key. Again, because of this law that essentially made it illegal to block access to BLM land. So again, sometimes legal access can get a little wonky. And, depending on how much we want to research, there are unique instances in which you get access rights outside of the normal means. All right, and one last story, which is a little more of the same, but very similar situation in the same area where this law was passed. In this case, we got a property that looked like it was landlocked on Google Maps. But again, we made the decision to buy it because it was surrounded by BLM land. The BLM land did have roads running through it, And when we called the county, they mentioned the same law, saying that you cannot restrict access through BLM land or to any public land now in the jurisdiction. Because we were right by BLM land, you would have access right up to the lot through the public lands. So again, just another instance where legal access got a little wonky. But because of the unique situation, we decided to purchase a lot that we may not have otherwise purchased in a different jurisdiction. All right, so that's it for today's episode. In the next episode, we'll continue this mini-series on our due diligence and go into a deeper dive on the remaining due diligence items that we check. And I do always like to end by saying, if you're not familiar with us, we do love giveaways, so you can check out our website to see some of our long-standing promotions. And call out that for a limited time, we are now also offering free 15-minute consultation calls. So if you want to send us an email and schedule something, please send the email to info@gokjcapital.com. And if you have any questions, also don't hesitate to email us or leave a comment. So thank you for listening, and more to come.